BeastNet Podcast, sponsored in part by James Safety Services, OCR Buddy, and supported by the fitness community. Here we discuss all things fitness related, running, rucking, mental health and preparedness, and of course, obstacle course racing. Welcome to the BeastNet.
We don't bite hard.
What up, homie?
Nothing much. Just trying to keep my head about me.
Yeah, sorry for being a little late. I had to go pick up a race packet, and it took a little longer than expected.
What are you racing this weekend?
I'm doing a triathlon tomorrow
Oh, nice.
because I decided I can't stop beating up my body, apparently.
Well, you got to give yourself, like the OCR trainer said, and she's told you this a couple different episodes that I've watched or listened to, is you got to give yourself time to rest too, right?
What's that?
Yeah, I know. I keep hearing her say that, and I'm like, ¿Qué es eso? ¿Qué es esto? What is this? What is that?
No le entendí.
Well, huh?
Said no le entendí.
That I don't know that one.
I don't understand.
Oh, no entiendo. No entiendo. Well, I know with myself, I did the DecaFit SoCal, and then did the Deca Mile up here in Yakima, Washington at Conquer Athletics.
Mm-hmm.
And then went and did Fayetteville. So it's like boom, boom, boom. So yeah, I kind of get like, what is rest? What is this you speak of?
What are you talking about?
But honestly, it was nice to like the Fayetteville course. Like I haven't been there, since 2018 or 2019, I believe.
Yeah.
And I met my friend Duff Pauls, who now works for Spartan. I met Woody Peters, who's a course manager, I believe, for Spartan. And I was dead the morning of. I had a spoonful of nasty eggs at the hotel. I had my first Rain energy drink ever because I was falling asleep behind the steering wheel. I had a migraine that could split a cord of wood there at the hotel. I was the last heat of the day for the supers. It was just a super and sprint weekend. And I get out there and I'm like, I'm going to die. So I'm like, nope, I flew this far. I'm going to do it. If I die, okay. So start hoofing it, and slower than snot. I get out to the bucket carry. This is before you could put it in when you had to carry it in front of you when they started putting the tops on them.
Yeah.
And there's this little man, way shorter than me, but kind of buff, an older guy, and he was in a blue shirt, and he looks at me and goes, "You can't do that." I'm like, "Who the heck are you?" I put it on my shoulder and start walking with it. I said, "Who the heck are you?" He says, "I'm Woody Peters. I'm the course manager." I'm like, "Oh, yes, sir." And he and Duff stuck with me the whole rest of the race. He explained to me kind of like how he designs courses and why things are laid out the way they are. And it was just a really cool experience.
Yeah.
And I was the very last Spartan out of everybody to cross the finish line that day. I did not come back for the sprint, mind you. And then I got to see my first hurricane heat, and the guy's like, "Come on, come with us, come with us." Like, no, y'all are mental. Of course, I did one a few years later, but now fast forward to 2024, and I'm getting the mileage done. I'm doing more obstacles. It's like I'm physically and mentally in a better place, even after losing Dad, than I was back then, because I could barely walk by the time I was done with that.
Mm-hmm.
And this time I had a bit of an issue with a blister that formed on the back of my left foot here in 2024 at the Beast. Got to about mile 6 or so, and started feeling this intense pain in the back of my foot. I'm like, what the heck is that? So I pulled over and about vertical cargo net, just about ready to climb it. Like, I can't climb it with my foot hurting this bad. And I pull over, and for those of you that have never ran a Spartan race, you don't ask for Band-Aids unless you have to, because they'll pull you off the course.
Mm-hmm.
Bring your own med kit, do your own med work. If you don't know how, bring somebody with you who does. But don't ask for their help unless you're going to go back to the festival grounds. But I pulled over and got myself bandaged up, and I kept walking through the ankle braces I had away. And the volunteers were like, "Are you good to continue?" I'm like, "You'll have to kill me. I
Yeah.
ain't stopping." Well, then come to find out when I got home, I had an infection in that wound, which spread to my calf and made everything just puff up. So I'm on antibiotics for the next week.
Yeah, it
But
happens.
oh yeah, I've never like I avoided water like the plague. That
Yeah.
creek we had to go through a couple different times. I'm like just trying to get the bottom of my foot wet, not submerge the foot in water or anything. And today is the first day I've been able to actually wear shoes instead of wearing just my Crocs to the gym. But yeah, it was a good course. It was great to be back at Fayetteville. Great to be back there at McCormick Farms, and I'm seeing I'm now beginning to see where my efforts have been and like the I guess the payoff, like from 2019 to 2024. Hey, you know what? You're not the ripped cut stud muffin that you see some people are, but you're getting there. You're
No.
becoming better. You know,
And that's
and
what it's
it's
all
like, oh
about.
yeah. And I'm not the guy that loses 100 pounds in a year. Of course, I don't have 100 pounds to lose, but just the notion that I can do 13 miles now and not stop unless I have a blister in the back of the foot. I
Yeah.
can I can chuck the spear and hit the target. I can get through the nasty mud. You know, what'd you think of
Yeah.
that? What'd you think of that loop back we did right before we crossed the finish line?
It was pretty interesting going back in that just mud pit. Seeing
That
you
was-
missed it because you didn't do I did the ultra.
yeah, you did it twice, didn't you?
Yeah, so I did the whole I did the ultra and there was an extra loop on the ultra that had this insane like canyon like downhill and back up.
Oh,
That
good
was part
lord.
of that ultra loop, which was great with the wheelchair, let me tell you that. But
Oh yeah.
oh yeah. So it was quite interesting. I had the problem with the blisters too, and that was one thing I was just talking to Megan about. It's like all of a sudden I just got massive bad blisters. And when I got up
Mhm.
Sunday, I like posting the little because I was doing with the More Heart Than Scars, posting team group like, hey, anyone got anything sharp because I need to pop some blisters. And one of the guys like, oh, you don't want to do that because of, infection. And I'm like, I get it, but at this point, if I don't pop them, I'm not walking for 10 miles. I'm not
Right.
running, I'm not walking. There's no way I'm doing 10 miles on these, on these
You're
blisters.
putting me in a wheelchair.
Yeah, so I need to get rid of them so I can do this. Um, because you do run into that issue of, the chance that you might get, which I will tell you, I skipped the dunk both days, or not both days, but
Oh
both
yeah, me
races
too.
on Sunday, because I'm
Yep.
just like, there's no
Yep.
way. I'm looking at that water going, that is the most, and I've seen the pictures, and some of the pictures are kind of iconic, but at the same time, I'm like, that looks
Nope.
like rotten, like rotten chocolate milk. There's chunks, there's stuff floating in it, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
pretty much. That's
nope. I mean, I do a lot. I'll do a
nope.
lot as a Spartan, but no, especially because I had the blisters at that point. And I'm like, if I put my feet in that water, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have an infection before I get out.
Well, then it rained, during the race, after the
Hmm.
race, the night before the super and the sprints. Now the pits are chock full of water, and now they're even more nasty.
Hmm.
Well, then you get to the like I skipped the barbed wire crawl because I'm like I can't fit under that. And then you see I mean it was probably it was the sickest barbed wire crawl I've ever seen. Um,
Yeah.
they had multiple pits and valleys and crap to get stuck in. And I'm sitting there going, I can't put my foot in that, but that is pretty wicked. Like
Hmm.
holy crap, you can't roll through that. That's holy crap. but
No.
um, but there was this one gal who I mean she's a little stud muffin, she's a little beastly, and she's kind of struggling a little bit. And I'm like, ma'am, you've got more what's than a lot of people here do. You got this. And she looked up at me, smiled, and just powered through the rest of it. And by the time I got to the dunk wall, she'd already went through the dunk wall.
Yeah.
And it was just cool to watch, to encourage somebody to watch them just beast it up and get through it. I'm like, yeah, I can't even remotely put my foot in that crap. So I'm good.
No. I'm just
Um,
yeah. It was. There's certain things I'll do, but at the same time, you have to be smart about it. Where you're like, if I put my feet in that water, especially the fact that I have literally have open wounds on my feet.
mm-mm.
there's going to be a problem.
And that's what I ran into, you know, the I guess Tuesday when I went to the gym, when I finally got back to where I live. I'm wearing my Crocs, and people look at my feet and they're like, "What's wrong with your foot?" They're like, "Holy crap, it's double the size of the other one."
Mm-hmm.
That sucks. Um, at least it wasn't a DVT. They were kind of scared to be a deep vein thrombosis, considering I flew back to Washington State. And then
Yeah.
the thing that really sucked though for me was I paid $300 to get on an earlier flight with American, and American's just stupid. But anyway, I paid extra $300. I didn't want to land in Seattle at like 9 a.m. on Tuesday. I want to get back earlier. Well, I had to run across two different concourses in Phoenix to get to the next flight because the flight out of Charlotte was late. So I'm running in my Hoka recovery slides in absolute agony, trying to get to that next flight. I show up to the next flight in tears, going, "Can I pre-board with all the disabled people? I'm injured." And I was 1 minute ahead of time for boarding. And I'm like, my life sucks. I'm in pain. I'm just in full-blown tears. And the gate agent's just sitting there like, "The heck's wrong with you?" Like, "Don't ask. Well, you don't want to know." It's like, I'm sorry.
But you did it to yourself.
But
Yeah.
oh yeah, well, and there's been, and I shot a video on this sometime. There's been people that have asked, why do you continue doing this to yourself? And I don't, I look at Marla, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I got to finally see. I didn't get to meet her, unfortunately, but I saw when you guys were doing the second loop of the ultra, when you came over and gave me a hug. I got to see Marla for the first time, and she's, how old is she?
I think 87 or something like that, or 78. One of those
Okay,
two.
so you got her, you got like Paul LaChance, who's in his 80s, you got Monty Montgomery, who's in his 90s. And they're like three heroes to me. But you look at people that are thinking, "Oh, well, you're getting up there." Well, I'm not that old. But you need to slow down, you need to take it easy on your body, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, but see, I think that's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
We've taken it easy on our bodies, and our bodies go, "Okay, well, we're gonna chill and get fat and ugly and stupid, and we're not gonna be healthy because God forbid there's any stresses on us." And we're so into relaxing, it's like we don't do anything hard anymore, so why do we care? And it's like,
Yeah.
no, I'm sorry, I don't want to die that
You get
way. And
soft.
yeah, and I don't really like using that term myself because I think it's got a bad connotation, like the
I mean, it
soft
does.
being soft. Go ahead.
It does. But I guess it's like my generation. That was,
Oh yeah,
to me, it's not like a bad. It just means that you're not putting in the work. You
right.
know. Yeah.
But see, here's the thing with that too. And if I may get a little personal for a second, like some of the listeners may have heard, I lost my dad in 22,
Mm-hmm.
and my dad was 5'9", 125 pounds most of his life. Now, to most people, that sounds like a healthy weight. He was active, he was walking around his shop, he was working on cars, that sort of thing. To most people, just those metrics would say, "Oh, your dad was very healthy." Like, well, here's the thing: Dad was also a smoker. He also ate whatever he wanted to because he didn't care. His favorite dish was chicken fried steak, which I still can't eat to this day. Um, and he would drink gallons of coffee, gallons of Coke, actually Pepsi, eat potato chips and Doritos like they're going out of style,
Mm-hmm.
and just really didn't take good, solid care of himself. And it wasn't until he had his two strokes in 2021 where he's like, "Oh crap, I've got to do something." And by then it was just too little, too late. And I look at my mom's family, and the biggest, and they're big people. The biggest one we ever buried was like 687 pounds. Lady was big. It was my Aunt Iva. And I'm sitting there like, okay, I've got two extremes of being very, very, very unhealthy and being very, very sedentary or not paying attention to what you're doing. And it's like, you know what? I'm going to live to be 100.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go out that way. So that's
And
why I
that's,
do this stuff.
well, yeah. And I mean, it's one of those things. It's like people attribute weight to health.
Yeah.
and size to health. Way too
Right.
often, where some of the healthiest people I know would be considered overweight by most, and some of the
Oh yeah.
most unhealthy people I know would be considered skinny and everything else. And it's like, that's not it. Skin, weight and everything else doesn't have, I mean, it does in some ways, but it isn't the only measure of health. It's like one of the
Sure.
things I was watching some, whatever person on like one of the reels or something on Instagram, and
Mhm.
someone was, of course, people have been making fun of this bigger girl who was in the gym lifting and doing all this stuff, talking about, oh, are you even working out? Are you doing that? Well, she was a power lifter.
Oh
And powerlifters, a lot of times, not always, but sometimes powerlifters don't have that gym physique that
no,
people
that's true.
expect to see, where they're just like, I mean, some of the best powerlifters you see, most people look at them and say, look at that fat ass.
Well, look at it. Look at
Because,
Brian Hall and
yeah,
Eddie Hall and Brian Shaw.
yeah,
I mean,
because
they're big guys.
they immediately associate the bigger belly, the bigger everything else is unhealthy and everything else. It's like, no, those are some of the strongest people you ever see. They're just not bodybuilders. They're not there
Hmm.
for bodybuilding. They're power
Right.
lifters. They're healthy. They're just healthy in a different way. And I think that's the biggest problem, where people suddenly look at someone and like, oh, look at that guy. One, they're at the
Oh yeah.
gym. If someone's at the
Hmm.
gym bettering themselves, I don't care. They could be the biggest person I've ever seen in my life. If they're at the gym trying to better themselves, good on you. Do you need help? Do you want me to help you? Do you need me to grab your weight? Do you want me
Absolutely.
to help you take some down? Do you need a spotter? And that's what it should be.
Absolutely.
And that's good gyms are like that. But every once in a while you get those, and people that just aren't good people, unfortunately. Are you freezing on me? I think you're freezing.
And the Spartan Racing, still there?
There
Are
you
you
go.
there? Hi.
You froze for a minute. I was
Can you
losing
see me
you.
now?
There you are. Now you're
Okay.
back.
No, it's I'm gonna pull over here shortly. Um, the sorry to be in the truck while we're doing this, but I had to get out of the house for a minute. Long hard day at work. But you
Hmm?
look at this like the Spartan racing community. You've got people that want to engage in a Spartan race or a Tough Mudder or a whatever, and they'll see like all the elites, your Rose Wetzels, and I'm Rose, you're awesome. Don't
I
get me
love
wrong on
Rose.
that one. But they'll see what's that?
I said I love Rose. I mean, everyone loves
They'll
Rose.
Oh, the Rose is awesome. She's becoming a public speaker now, which is totally wicked. Um, but they'll see like Rose, or they'll see Chris, or they'll see all these celebrities, if you will, in the Spartan racing community, and I can't be like them. Like, well, I can't either. Like, I can't finish a freaking beast in an hour. Sorry, I go out there and do it because I enjoy it. I enjoy the camaraderie, and if I get one obstacle more than I did last year, that's a win.
Yeah,
I mean, come on now. Um, there was a I can tell you this story. There's a kid at my gym. He's 19 years old. He's a very well built guy. I mean, he's not a slouch by any stretch of the imagination. But when I finished up my Deca mile and completed my Deca trifecta for this year, he's like, I should try that. I would crush that. I'm like, okay, let's go ahead and test that theory. And he's a humble dude. Don't get me wrong. So my gym graciously allows me to store like my RAM rollers and stuff at the gym, which is cool, and I
that's awesome.
appreciate it. So I went and grabbed the RAM rollers, and I grabbed my 70-pound sandbag. I said, "You think you can crush a Deca? All right, we're gonna put you through a modified Deca Strong. Come here, son. I got something to talk to you about." And I pushed him. I got him through that Deca Strong. We didn't have a skier because we had to remove that. But by the end of it, he was sweating buckets. He was red faced. I mean, he did really, really well for his first time ever touching it. And he's like, "You do that on the weekends?" Like, yeah.
Yeah.
He goes, "Dave, you're no slouch, man. You're not a fat boy. Don't let anybody ever tell you that." I'm like, I know. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well,
So
it's like we said, because
that was
people
really good
judge
to
a
hear.
book, they judge a book by its cover.
That's true. And that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Um, we, it's all a matter of I may not be the prettiest guy in the world, but what is the warrior or the warrior ethos say? Uh, I will never accept defeat. I will never quit. It's like, yeah, I'm never going to stop doing this.
Hmm.
Eventually, if I got to be in a wheelchair, I'll go with more heart than scars, and I'll be the athlete in the wheelchair. Whatever I got to do.
Oh,
But
and we take you.
yeah, I know, and that's another thing too. I'm always impressed with more heart than scars and Oscar Mike and Ainsley, how do you say that? Ainsley's
Ainsley's,
Angels.
yeah, Ainsley's Angels.
That
Yeah.
one. Um, I was blown away because it was the first time I really like paid attention because I was racing with Oscar Mike a little bit, and then you guys when I got to see you, and
Hmm.
and it was really cool to have these organizations care enough about somebody who couldn't get through this on their own to say, you know what, we're going to stop where it doesn't matter what we do, we're going to get you through this event.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, if and listeners, if you have a chance to run with More Heart Than Scars or Oscar Mike or Ainsley's Angels or any of these other organizations that do this work, take an opportunity and just be there as boots on the ground and help these folks because they do some awesome, awesome, amazing work with folks that are bound to wheelchairs or that have disabilities or
Hmm.
who just want to go out and run a race. They want to have that experience. And it was, I know that, what was it? Was that last mud crossing where you came down the hill and you actually had to put like both feet in the water
Hmm.
and get up to the mud where I came up to a fallen tree and crossed the fallen tree and went over. Um, I look back and here's Oscar Mike and they're picking up the wheelchair and they're picking up the athlete and they're getting them over there and they're helping Ainsley's Angels get over there. And I'm just like, this has got to be the coolest thing ever is to just to watch that. And then when I saw you guys on the Ultra Loop, you're getting Marla through it, she's putting in the work. She's working just as hard as everybody else is. Um, but just to watch that and see that it's like we care enough, we're gonna help each other get through this.
Yeah.
It just bolsters my confidence in what this group, what this community means to the world.
And it proves
If that
that
makes any
humanity
sense.
really does still exist.
Oh yeah,
And that is one of the things for me when we're out there with the chair. And I mean, anybody who wants to join, just let me, Joey, reach out to one of us. Um,
I want
you
to
may
join.
not, huh? You may
I
not be
want to join.
right on the chair, but you'll walk with us. A lot of times
Yeah,
we just have people walking with us, hold a flag, carry a flag, whatever, walk with the group and just be a part of it in case we do need help.
yep,
Like really this whole weekend, like on the ultra loop, I never touched the chair, nothing. I was just with the group. I ended up the last, what, probably 8 or 9 miles. We had another member of the group that started having major issues. I think the sand got to him and really messed with his hips. So I dropped back
yeah.
because the team had Marla. We were covered, we were good, and I'm like, I'm gonna drop back and make sure he's okay. Because once again, we go back to the warrior ethos. Place the mission first. I did. Marla was taken care of.
Yep,
Never leave a man behind.
yep. I'll never leave a fallen comrade.
Yeah, never leave a fallen comrade. That's what it says. So I step
Yep,
back, make sure because I've unfortunately been on those races where all of a sudden I was the one person having issues, fell way behind, and nobody stepped back to help me. And then
yeah,
you get into your own head. And sometimes we both know this, it's the worst place to be when, especially when you've trained for this, you think you're ready, and then all of a sudden your body, something goes wrong in your body, and then you
yep,
step back and you help, you're there. And really we didn't talk much for a lot of it too. It was just I was ahead of him, but I was just far enough ahead that I could turn back and I could see him when I went out before I went around the corner.
yep,
And then if I got to a corner and I didn't see him, I'd wait till he walked around the corner behind me and then he'd step up. Because that way too, he knows you're there.
yep,
The team member knows you're there, but they don't feel like completely burdened, I don't think, where it's all of a sudden like, oh, you're back here waiting for me. And then they feel worse about themselves, but they know, hey, every time I come around that corner, you're still there. So someone's there.
well, and that's personal. Not personal I should get, but when I started doing this, I started in 2016, and I think I was a year behind you.
Mhm.
And I found out my dad, and my dad always had faith in me. Dad was always very hard on me because
Mhm.
one, I was always bigger than him. But a lot of fat boy comments over the years of my life. And he told my uncle that he didn't think I was ready to do this. I was going to have a heart attack and die. And I didn't learn this until after Dad died. I had no idea Dad ever said that. But I do remember, along that note, there being several races about the 2019 timeframe, more than likely, where I would be that guy that was stuck out there by himself, nobody around, and thinking, and I'm starting to have problems with my body. I'm starting to ache. I'm starting to hurt. Things are not moving as they should. And I'm sitting there, and I remember a few races where I was in full blown tears because, am I going to have to DNF this? Am I going to have to quit? Because, maybe Dad was right. Maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe I am just a fat kid. I don't want to burden anybody else with my problems. That's why I race, why I usually race alone. Is because I just don't want to have an issue and burden somebody.
Yeah.
And I would stop and go, no, I'm going to keep going. And even if I'm going to keep going until my legs fall off, I'm going to keep going until I can't move anymore. And I
Mhm.
would always finish a race. I may not do an obstacle, but I'd always cross that finish line. Maybe dead friggin' last, but I would cross that finish line.
But you
And
did.
now it's like, yeah, now it's like, you know what? I'm going to do the best I can. And I'm not going to worry about getting what the negative thoughts inside my brain are going to be. I'm going to have them. They're going to be there, but I'm not going to listen to them. I'm going to keep moving. And I'm never going to accept defeat, unless I have a serious medical issue and like I break a leg or something, God forbid. Um, but I think that's what there was one guy I ran into on the super named Kevin, and he's a data scientist with the Army. And a pretty cool dude, but he had a really serious issue with his ankles. He had a proper, like, full blown ankle brace on, like, medical grade ankle brace.
Mhm.
And he's got his foot sideways and he's kind of dragging his foot. And I'm like, you okay? And I stuck with him basically the rest of the super. And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna keep going. Even if I'm the last one, like, good attitude. And he actually had something medically wrong with his ankle, but he uh, said, hey, if you want to switch your sprint start time to 3 o'clock, go with me. Like, no, I got to get out of here before that. But I actually stuck around long enough after the sprint that I saw him cross the finish line, and saw him go to the Spartan Plus tent, and that was cool. I got to encourage him that way. But it was where I sorry about that.
Oh,
No,
that's okay.
I was next time I won't do this on the phone. I was saying that I tell people with longer races that if they got to stop and take a breather, stop and take a breather.
Mhm.
That 2 to 5 minutes that you're stopping and chilling out for a second and letting your legs like ease up a little bit, it's just you're telling your body to reset to where you can keep going.
Yep.
And if that's what you got to do to get through it, that's what you got to do.
It
Don't
is,
worry
and
about your time. You're not competitive. Who
no.
cares?
Yeah, and it's one of those things. I mean, a lot of times, it's like I tell people all the time, I'm getting the same medal you are, whether I
Mm-hmm.
finish in 2 hours or I finish in six. So,
Yep.
and it's one of those things because I mean, you know the story of me doing my first marathon. I did my first marathon like the week before my 40th birthday, 9 hours or something like that. It was insane. I had so many people
Yep.
be like, you shouldn't be out there. I even posted when I finished, I'm like, this is for all the fatties out there. All those people told us we can't do this. I just did a marathon.
Yep.
Piss off, you know, because
Yep.
it was one of those things. I mean, I went for it. I was the last racer. They were literally pulling
Mm-hmm.
down the course as I was walking by, you know. Um, I'm not ashamed to say this. It was the first time I cried on a course.
Oh yeah, I do that regularly.
Actually, I might have cried before that, but that's the first time I really remember just full on like bawling. It's pouring down rain on
Oh
me.
yeah.
Um, Emily, she wasn't feeling good anyway. I mean, bless her heart for starting with me, but she was
Mhm.
sick anyway. She was already sick. So the fact that she made a half marathon out of it was amazing to me. Don's back
Yeah.
started spasming at like mile 22, and he's just like, I just can't. His back
Mhm.
spasming. He's like, I can't go, and I'm like, I can't stop and talk to you about this or argue because if I stop, I'm not going to continue. So I'm just going to go.
Right.
And then, like I said, I mean, I hit probably about mile like 24, 25. I'm alone walking through the streets of Seattle. It's dark. The sun's already gone down. It's pouring rain on me. And I'm just like, I have never felt so alone. But that
Yep.
one part
That
of
sounds
me,
real familiar.
but that it's just like, but I'm like, I don't think I can do this. But then I'm like, but I have to. I
Mhm.
told myself there's no quitting.
Yep.
And I even had like one of the the course marshal like ladies like drove up. She's like, "Do you just want me to drive you to the finish?" And I'm
No.
like, "No, no, I'm gonna finish this." You know, about
Yep.
a half a mile before the finish, my ankle just like suddenly seized, and I'm like, "Nope, still doing this." And like, if you see the video of me finishing, I'm
Yeah.
peg legging basically on my left leg because my ankle had seized
Shit.
and just quit moving.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm just like, no, I'm finishing this shit, and it
Hmm.
was emotional as hell. But I mean, it's like we were talking about. I mean, sometimes you end up out there alone, and if you can help, not, and I get a lot of people that are like, oh, are you upset at them? But no, because both of them pushed. Dawn and Emily pushed themselves. The only reason they even signed up for that wasn't because they wanted to do a marathon, because they wanted to make sure that I did.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that was it. They didn't sign up for themselves. They signed up for me. So I mean, I am grateful to this day that they got me through the first 22 miles,
Yep.
you know. And Dawn trained less than I did for that.
Hmm.
And he signed up. It was one of those things because I was like, who wants to do this with me? And I think it was like 2 weeks before the race. And I'm like, he asked me, who's
Jeez.
going with you? I'm like, Emily's going with me. He's like, that's it. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, a couple minutes later, he sends me a message saying, okay, let's do this. And I'm like, okay. So I mean,
Yep.
and it's that kind of, and I think that's one of the things I love about this. I mean, me and Dawn, everyone knows we've known each other since preschool, so it's kind of different for us. But I mean,
Hmm.
I still get that from people in this group. I know if it was me and you there and I started having problems, you would have dropped back with me too. And the one guy
Yes, it
that I
would.
dropped back to
In a
help, he
heartbeat.
sent me, posted a thing and said, thank you. You know, I
Hmm.
never got the thank you for it. And I'm like, there's no thanks needed, man. You're a brother, and I wanted to make sure you got through this. You know,
Yep.
I told him to
What?
actually. I did make a joke. I'm like, we're the only two here from Texas, so if we don't walk out of here without a buckle, we're never gonna fucking hear the end of it.
No, actually, Texas would probably just disown you and you'd
Yeah,
be done.
we
So
had to leave with buckles.
you had to leave with a buckle. That's true. Um, it reminds me of the story, like I told you before with my first Tough Mudder up in Canada. We're Whistler, British Columbia. My teammates and I we're directing this youth rally that I still direct every year, and our theme was about endurance and perseverance that year, and we decided to do a Tough Mudder, and I got to pick the course. So I picked at the time the toughest course in North America besides world's toughest was Whistler, British Columbia, Canada. I wasn't prepared for the amount of elevation gain like
Oh
at
yeah.
all because it was at the Olympic ski park. And I'm sitting there going, I can't do this. I can't do this. And like, come on, Dave, you got this. Come on, let's go. And we finally get to the length of an American Tough Mudder because ours are in Imperial system in
Yep.
miles. And I'm like, okay, I've done a Tough Mudder. That's a mountain. I'm not climbing that. I'll see you boys at the finish line. And I went across the finish line, got my headband, and then my buddy Brent, the fallible man, he gave me a hug and said, because he was the one really pushing hard on me. He's like, Dave, I'm proud of you. I'm like, thanks, man. And then of course later on that year we did what did we do? Sprint my first Spartan sprint in Portland in Washougal. And it was another one of those things where, and of course sprint's only 3 miles, right? About a mile and a half, I'm like, I'm gonna die. I can't finish this. And it was, no, man, you got this. Let's go. And we finished together, and he dropped back and helped me. And then he just took off from there, and it's like, okay, when's the next race I can sign up for?
Yep.
I may not be able to do everything, but you know what? I'm at least gonna get it done, or I'm gonna help somebody through it.
Yeah.
And
And
I
that's what it's
love
about.
that.
I mean, there's so many
Yeah.
people that it still surprises me when you see people who suddenly get that weird look on their face when you turn around to help them.
Oh God,
And they're like, what? I'm like, do you need a hand?
you
Do you need a
you're gonna
knee
help
so
me
you
over this obstacle?
yeah, do you need a knee so you can get up over this? We can do that.
Mhm.
We're in the open heat. We can do whatever the hell we want.
Now, if you were in
Yeah.
the competitive wave, a little different,
Yeah. I mean, if you have a
whatever.
black headband,
But
you can do whatever you want. You can walk by this obstacle. You could flip it off. You can do pretty much anything you want as long as it isn't
hey,
obscene.
that's not funny. I did flip off Helix one year, but because I can't still get new Helix yet, right
I
yet.
did
Um,
for years we used to flip off the mileage signs because they were never right.
well, yeah, and I know why that is too. But the when
It's a
Woody
mental
Peters
game.
walked me through how it is, but it isn't. It's kind of. Woody Peters walked me through this was that at least the way he did it at the time back in 2019, they would wear like three different smartwatches and start them all up and would walk the course, and they would take like the average
Hmm.
because they weren't all correct all the time. Like, that's great, but you understand that all the smartwatches talk to multiple GPS systems, right? Well, and didn't know that. Like,
Yeah.
well, he did, just other people didn't know that. But that's the way I understood it was they do the best they can. But like, what was it?
I think they do now, but when I first started, like in 15, I can remember
Oh, they
one of
probably
them
didn't.
where they mixed them up. Like
Really?
you hit 4 and then suddenly 3 was after it.
Oh, that's just stupid. that's just that's just borderline stupid.
And then like the
Uh,
first time I did Montana, there's arguments in 15 of
mhm.
whether how long it was.
Oh
Because some people's
gosh.
watches said like my watch I think said 22 miles. And there was other people that said it was 24. So it was anywhere
Well, might as
between
well be
like 19 to 26 miles is what people had on their watches on that first year in Montana. On a beast.
might as well be an ultra. Might as well be an ultra at that point. I
I don't think
mean,
they had them yet.
gosh.
Well, that's what it
Uh,
used to be because a lot of people forget because like my patches, someone made a comment on this weekend because my patches are from 2015, the ones that are on my hydro pack. And it says
mm-hmm.
15 or 13 plus, 10 plus, and 5 plus,
Right,
which is what they
right,
originally were. And it was
right.
just 13 whatever. And
13
I've
and then some.
yeah, 13 and then whatever we feel like putting out there. So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I've done beasts that were like I said up to that's why a lot of people get surprised when I talk about like Montana in 17 when we were out there for 12 hours on a beast.
Oh
And they're
yeah.
like, "How were you out on a beast for 12 hours?" I'm like, "It was like 19 miles
Oh, well,
in
it's 19
Montana."
miles.
Yeah, it was like 19
How
miles in
did you?
Montana. I mean, what do
A
you
lot
mean?
of uphill
Why?
too, right?
Oh yeah. You never walked out of Montana with anything less than like 4,000 feet elevation.
Well, let's see about the new venue, right? So the new
Yeah.
venue's in Bozeman, right?
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to see.
Which I won't be there.
The
My after I do the triathlon I'm doing tomorrow, I don't have another race
right.
till Sisu in at the end of June.
Okay. I've got after let's see. I'm not going to go to Monterey because I've got to be here for a church project, and I don't want to drive all the way to Monterey. I know Don's going to Monterey with More Heart Than Scars, but I just don't feel like doing the drive and back. I did that a couple years ago. Although the Monterey course is beautiful, and for a super and sprint weekend, I mean it's a top notch course.
Yeah.
Was very impressed by that last year. But my next race is Trifecta Weekend, Colorado Springs, middle of June. I'm gonna go hit that one up, and then hopefully this year it doesn't rain us out and hail us out like it did last year. That was a weird experience. And that'll be at Fort Collins, and then I will do my next big motorcycle expedition on her dad called the Narrow Way South, starting July 5th, ending August 5th, and then I don't race again until Tough Mudder in August. So
Huh?
I had thought about like bringing some of my gear with me for like, hey, if I find a race and on the, I am not packing my race pack on the motorcycle during an expedition. It's not going to happen.
Why
But
not?
I think of no, that's just too much. I don't ride a trike, dude. I ride a motorcycle. My road glide can only hold my road glide, my electric glide, and my Pan America can only hold so much stuff.
You just need to get a
Um,
trailer.
no, I don't. I'm not
Why
riding with
not?
a trailer because that voids my warranty. Um, that's not happening. Um, but the I may go like if I see if I see a race or find a race along my route because I did this last year with Utah is I may pull over for a day or two and volunteer or something.
Nice.
But and then I've got some rest of my race schedule. I'll race again the trifecta weekend, Seattle's in September. October is Dallas. Gotta come see you guys. I gotta come to Dallas.
Hmm.
That'll be right before my birthday. And then November. So November is gonna be weird because I'm supposed to be gone the first weekend of November for Greece and run all three races in Sparta. And I'm pretty much just, rolling over, racing and leaving. My adopted mom is kind of not happy about that, but I don't have time to go sightseeing and all that and whatnot. I will do some, but I don't have time to be a tourist. Um, it's I'll be coming a day before what is it, the sprint, and then race the sprint, the super, the beast, get it done, and then 2 days after that, I'll be back on the plane and start heading home. And then right after that, I fly to Boston for 2 days of racing at Fenway because Fenway was extremely cool. I hope to race with Joe this time, but probably not. And then right after that, I'll hit Phoenix for a trifecta weekend. And then what is it? The first or second weekend in December will be Central Florida. Then my race season's done for the year. So that'll be. I mean, I got to do Central Florida. That's just it's flat, but it's tough and it's just a blast
Yeah.
because that mud and water is just like I'm gonna swim through that. I'm gonna figure out how to get through that faster. I'm gonna get a canoe and go through it. I don't care. Whatever I gotta
I
do.
I might be there. My right now, my only plans for racing so far, like for the rest of this year, is I'm doing Sisu in Seattle,
Hmm.
in the end of June,
Hmm.
and then I'm doing um the Ragnar in
Oh, nice.
Bellingham in July. So I'm gonna be down in June and July twice. I'll be down in or up in Washington. And
Okay.
then other than that, I'm supposed to do World's Toughest again with the team.
Hmm.
And then if any other races come up for the team that I can get to, I'll probably do. I'll probably end up doing Central Florida again, but it really just depends. I mean, if I can get any with the More Heart Than Scars, I'm pretty much at this point, if I'm doing a Spartan, it's pretty much only going to be with More Heart Than Scars,
Yeah, totally.
just because it's,
Uh, Sorry, go ahead.
no, it just because that's just kind of where my brain is because I'm more about helping others and getting through those right now than I am about it because that for my mental well-being, that's what's helping me the most right now.
No, I think that's wonderful. And in fact, if you guys will have the old Commonman OCR, if you guys are okay with me hanging out with you, I would love to just race with you guys for a while, or you and Oscar Mike,
Anytime.
because yeah, thank you. It's sometimes it's hard to be out there by myself, and I do get, and my new bosses on my new team at work, they have they've gotten the benefit of this, but there are times I'll be out there by myself and I'll get this epiphany, this moment of clarity on something I was struggling with, or something I was struggling with at work or church or
Hmm.
personal, and it was like, wait a minute, if I just wrote this code and did this, that would function. And I'll get back that Monday and I'll tell my team about it. They're like, when did you think about that? About mile 7 or 8 in the beast, and probably about mile 5 in the super, and mile 2.5 in the sprint. Why? I don't know. I was out there by myself. So,
Your brain
um,
goes through weird things. I did that when I'd run. I would be running and all of a sudden,
oh
so
yeah.
a lot of people wondered why I had my phone with me for two reasons. One, because I had my music going to it, and two,
Hmm.
because I have my phone set up for comedy stuff that I can just hit record and say something into the microphone and then throw it
Yeah.
back in my pocket, and that's my note taking. So there's so many
Yep.
times I'd be listening to notes for jokes that I was writing, and all of a sudden it'd be like, And I would say whatever and then close it off. And then I'm like, God, I hope I can hear it over that breathing. But so there's some really weird like recordings on my phone, just so you know, that people will be like,
Oh,
why are
nice.
you breathing so hard?
That's awesome. Oh, shoot. I just forgot. I just remembered something. Sorry about my
What's
race
up?
schedule. I do have one other, I've got one other stadium. I raced Dodger Stadium in LA in April. I'm actually racing Anaheim Angel Stadium in June before I leave for my expedition. And then that'll be four stadiums this year, with two being in Fenway. So I'm pretty excited about that.
I've never done a stadium. Someday I'll have to
They
do one.
they are they are literally. I mean, to me, they're a bunch of fun because they're just a sprint. So no big deal there. But no mud, no barbed wire. I'm fine with mud and barbed wire, but you get a little bit different feel, at least in my realm, my world, is you got people that have never tried a Spartan race. They've never been across that finish line. They've never been to the start line, and they're out there, they're doing it. And you're able to encourage folks that have never touched an obstacle course race and be like, yeah, hey, when you can do this. Now think what happens if you add mud and barbed wire. Then it'd be a real Spartan.
Yeah.
But you're able to encourage people on a whole different level. And then to see some of these places, like I walked the halls that in Fenway Park that Ted Williams walked, that Babe Ruth walked, that I was on the field these guys played on. And
Yeah.
I'm just there's a picture of me coming off the third baseline, or yeah, third baseline, as I'm heading around the edge of the edge of the outfield to finish up and cross the finish line. And the first day I was there, I had no sleep. I'm just looking around like a kid in a candy store going, oh my
Oh, I'm
gosh,
sure.
I'm at Fenway friggin' Park. And then with Dodger Stadium, it was like, wow, this is where Tommy Lasorda coached the Dodgers forever. And it was really, I mean, even the people that aren't really into baseball, it's like the history that's there is kind of cool.
Hmm.
When I did AT&T Park, or no, AT&T Field in Arlington, Texas, where the Cowboys play. I hate the Cowboys. But
I would have ran that wearing a
uh
Seahawks jersey and taken a poop in the stands.
I actually made the joke about wearing a Seahawks jersey because I just want to be funny. And this rather big Texan looks at me, goes, and he literally sounded like a son, you get your ass kicked if you did that. I'm like, you have a Walmart right across the street from your stadium. What
Hmm.
does that say about you?
It's one of those things that's funny. And I'll say this just because I follow football a little bit. There was a player that left the Cowboys and went to the Texans. And
Yeah.
he said one of the things in his interview, they were like, what's different there? And he's like, I didn't realize that not every stadium had like everyone in a fishbowl when they're working out. Because apparently in
Ah,
Arlington, when you're in there, they have windows where you
yep.
can watch them work out. And he's like, the
Mm-mm.
Texans don't have that. Like other stadiums don't have that. And it's like, Jerry
Oh, I
World is
know.
just a completely different place. It's all
It
about
was
Jerry.
weird.
Jerry's the star.
Oh yeah. Well, it was weird because like even racing there, I mean, the all the other stadiums I've done, like I've done Oracle Park, which used to be AT&T Park in San Francisco
Hmm?
before they lost that venue. I'd have trouble when I got to the very top because I'd turn around, look at the field, and be like, okay, that's really high up here. Then you get to AT&T Stadium, and it's like, all right, I'm on a whole different level of the atmosphere because I turn around and I look at the jumbotron, and I'm trying to focus on the field, and I'm getting kind of blurry eyed because I'm that high up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I gotta sit down. Sir, are you okay? No. You okay to continue? Oh, I'll continue. I just have to get from here to there. I'm
Yeah.
gonna throw up and yeah. But if you get a chance to do a stadion, I mean, let's make a promise to each other now. Next year we're going to do a stadion together, whether it's
You
in
got it.
Texas or whatever. All right. And they have some different obstacles, like the Atlas Stone is the 100-pound sandbag. And when I got to the when I got to the field at AT&T Stadium, I'm like, interesting. I'm in the end zone, and the guys look like, what's the matter? I'm like, Cowboys haven't been here in years.
Yeah.
I made everybody unhappy. It
Oh
was
yeah.
a great day. Um, but I know, well, listening to an interview with Joe DeSena, when whoever the product manager or whatever who thought of the idea of the stadium brought it to Joe, he hated it. He absolutely hated it because it wasn't in, barbed wire and muck and gunk
Yeah.
and mud and whatever. It's like, but then they decided to go ahead, like they convinced him, decided to go ahead and push forward with it, and now it's been one of their most successful like sprint style races, especially in the city areas. And I'm like, you got to think outside the box. If you can get those city folk to get off their butts and get moving, let's go. Why
Yeah.
not?
I mean,
You know,
that's one of the things for me. I mean, if they'd ever done it when I lived up in Seattle still, if they'd ever done it in either one of those stadiums, I would have been there. I would have done
that
it
would have been
just to be
so
able to
cool.
go into T-Mobile Park or, you know,
Yeah,
the CenturyLink and go for it, but they never did. And that's why I keep hoping down here because I know they used to do it in Arlington, but they don't anymore. And I think
right.
they were gonna do it in one of the schools.
Oh, they
They
had
were
done
gonna,
it at one of the schools
I
near
think they could
Houston.
do
I
it
forgot which
Baylor, I
one.
think. Yeah.
Baylor, that was it.
But if they did it one of,
I
I mean, they've got all the schools down here. They've got so many different schools down here in Texas, around Houston. You can
oh
do
yeah,
NRG. I think it'd be awesome doing the Astrodome.
that would be epic. There is so, and I can't verify this, so don't take my word for it. But I've heard the scuttlebutt rumor and hearsay that Spartan has been talking to the two parks up here in Seattle area about running a stadium up here.
See, what I think would be amazing up there, and this is one of the things I would love to see forever, and I mentioned it, but I know it'd be a freaking nightmare to try and make it work, is to do a Beast Stadium and do it between the two.
I've
Because
tried selling that for years.
there's a walkway between the two stadiums. You could just, yeah.
I have tried. I have wholeheartedly tried to tell Spartan that it would be epic to do a trifecta weekend stadium series because there is enough room in a stadium, especially like an AT&T or a AT&T stadium or like what you're talking about with the two here in Seattle, to accommodate it. Even if you got to run the parking garage,
Well, and even there,
just
I mean, you could have a lot of fun in Seattle because you could do like uh, a Beast between the two
mhm,
on Saturday, and then
a super in one and a sprint in the other.
a super in one, a sprint the other next day, or even if you wanted to, throw Climate Pledge in and do the sprint in there.
Oh heck yeah! But
Do the
see,
super in
there's a
one and then throw Climate Pledge for, because it's a little farther up, but whatever.
oh yeah. There's one that I saw. There was something else I saw that I would love to see included in stadions. Again, and I was talking to Adam Bergenheier from Beast OCR, and he kind of agreed with me a little bit, I think, because he did one at AT&T Park. It was a hurricane heat at the stadium, and that's just be cool because then there's so much of that park you can use.
Hmm.
You can't tear anything up, obviously, but you've got all the obstacles sitting there. You can have these, and usually it's city folk, bring their gear to the park. I saw one that was out of China, and they made all the participants dress in a black tie, white shirt, black pants, black shoes. And one of the things they had to do as part of the mission was they had to take the tractor tire for a tire flip at the time, and the whole team had to hold it while the Krypteia put cups of water on top of the tire. And if you dropped
Oh,
a cup, it was burpees, and you just had to sit there and
yes.
hold the tire. And I'm like, that's a whole different level of nuts, but that makes so much sense. You could
That's
totally do a hurricane heat.
well, you could do the other thing you could do in Seattle is not even just the stadium, do it in um, Seattle Center. They take over Seattle
Do
Center
what?
for the Seattle Center. They take over the Seattle Center for how many races every year?
That's true.
Take it over and do an entire freaking Spartan race between Climate Pledge, the Armory, everything else there. I mean, it would
Hmm.
be awesome.
That
But
would be. You just have to make sure it'd be a city style race or a stadium style race where you're
mhm,
not like digging up the ground or stuff. But
yeah,
they just had they'd honestly they'd have to get the city council in Seattle to okay it. So Seattle City Council, if you're listening, please go hang out with Spartan, go talk to Spartan, Spartan, go talk to Seattle. Let's get some more races up here in the Northwest because
yes,
I love I love going across the country for races and all that, but we don't have nearly enough up here in the Northwest. And the more races we have, the more people we can get to them.
yeah.
I
Well, the
mean,
nice part too is like living here now, I can do a
mhm.
quick jump with only taking like one day off of work.
Oh yeah,
Like for North
Y-
Carolina, for Fayetteville, I took one day. I took Friday off. I was home. I ended up not going to work on Monday because I just felt like crap. But
Oh yeah.
my plane was delayed and I didn't get it in until 3 in the morning.
Oh
But
geez.
if my plane hadn't been delayed and I got to the airport early, that's one of the reasons I didn't see you because I was like, I need to go so I can make sure I get to the airport. And I was at the
Right.
airport like 3 hours early.
Oh
I
geez.
could have flown out way earlier than I did.
I went back to the hotel and slept, and then got up the next day. Went to my office in Charlotte, worked from there, then went to the airport and got things situated. But by the time I got back to SeaTac, it was midnight on Tuesday. So I was 9 hours earlier than my previous flight arrangements, which was great. But as soon as coming out of Issaquah, heading back toward Wenatchee, starting to go into North Bend, and all four tires on my all-wheel drive RAV4 started to hydroplane.
Hmm.
And I'm like, this is a all-wheel drive vehicle. How the heck am I hydroplaning? Well, there was that much rain. So I pulled over at just outside of Issaquah, or outside of North Bend rather, and got to I think it was called the Edgewick Inn, this little, old school, motel sitting out in the middle of nowhere. I'm like, it's 2:30 in the morning. I'm like, sir, do you have a room? It's 2:30 in the morning. I'll be gone by checkout time. I pretty
Yeah.
much got the room. He gave me a discount. Walked in, passed out, and by 10 o'clock, I was back in the car heading home. And I was
Yeah.
taking Tuesday off anyway. But yeah, normally I'll take Friday off, and I'm usually back back at work on Monday. But this time it's like I'm going across the country. That's not happening. Luckily, I've got a really good team who, like, I can work from pretty much anywhere. But luckily, we have an office that's just right outside of Charlotte, between
Yeah.
Charlotte and the South Carolina line. So I was able to go down there Friday and work from there, and then come in Monday and work several hours from there, and say hi to have a couple meetings, say hi to some people I know, and then off to the airport or off to the rental
Gotta go.
car counter.
Yeah.
Exactly. But well, I can't wait to come down and see you again. I
I
can't
can't
wait to
wait
see you
either.
back on the course. And
Yeah.
I really, on a personal note, I really do appreciate y'all's friendship, because you make this a little less lonely, and keeps me motivated to keep on the course that I'm on. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah. Like I said, you're not just friends anymore. It's family. So you're stuck with us.
Copy that. Same here.
So, all right. Well, I should let you go. It's been amazing talking to you. We need to do this more.
Let me know when you got next opening. We'll get another subject going, and go from there.
You got it. Perfect. You
All
have
right,
a safe
all right,
drive,
brother.
rest of your drive, and I will talk to you soon.
All right, see ya.
Thanks
Bye.
for listening to the BeastNet podcast. If you haven't done it yet, find us on Facebook, like and share the podcast. Give us a review on iTunes or Spotify. All these things will help to expand the show in the future. Don't forget to subscribe and let us know what you think and what you'd like to hear.